Assalamu alaikum dear students. So today we are going to talk about sentences forms. So here are the forms: simple sentences, compound sentences, complex sentences, compound complex sentences. This video lesson will let you know that how many types of sentences are there, the forms, how do we construct them, and how do we make them and use them in our routine sentences. Alright, so these are the objectives. After this lesson, students will be able to use variety of simple and compound sentences and accurately. Sentence construction is there, right? And so on. So first we are going to talk about simple sentences. As you can see, simple sentences are also called independent clauses. And independent clauses are the sentences which have subject and verb. In other words, you could also say there are two parts in that sentence, subject and predicate. So predicate contains again the verb and the remaining part of the sentence, which can be considered as object, right? So it is also called an independent clause, simple sentence. It contains a subject, predicate, and subject and verb, and it expresses a complete thought, and it tells you the complete meaning, it tells you the complete thought. So here you can see some of the examples. Some students like to study in the mornings. Like some students like is again a verb, students a subject, and the remaining part of the sentence is predicate including verb. So some students like to study in the morning. John and Anthony play football every afternoon. So John and Anthony are simply the subject here. Play football every afternoon. Predicate a play as a verb. Similarly, Alicia goes to the library and studies every day. So this is how we are going to find out. This is how we are going to learn. We are going to identify the simple sentences which has the complete thought, which has which has the clear idea, which has subject and predicate, subject, verb, and object all. Alright, here we have the exercise. Now I would like you to please stop the video for a second, for a while, and answer all of these questions for your practice. Identify the subject and predicate in these simple sentences. Alright, moving ahead. Compound sentences. So the compound sentences contain two independent clauses, simple sentences joined by a coordinating conjunction. So this is very important for us to understand and to learn that how do we make compound sentences, what can be the identification of compound sentences, what can be the clues in compound sentences, like whenever we are using coordinating conjunctions in them, that is a kind of real clue, the real. So an independent clause which will have a complete thought, which will have the complete meaning, that will be joined by a coordinating conjunction, right? And two of the independent clauses will be joined by the coordinating conjunction. So what are they? The conjunctions are as follow: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So they are also called fanboys, right? The acronym of fanboys is all of these, right? So wherever you find these coordinating conjunctions joining the sentence, and both the sides, you would find independent clauses, right? So that would be a compound sentence. Okay, so except for very short sentences, these conjunctions are always preceded by a comma. As you can see the examples here: I tried to speak Spanish, comma, and a coordinating conjunction joining two independent clauses, right? My friend tried to speak English. Second, Alex played football, comma, so Maria went shopping. So both the sentences express complete thought. They both have subject, both have the verb, as well as they are joined by the coordinating conjunction, which is here. So you can see in the red highlights. So it is preceded by the comma, and if we see the third example, the class will get a reward, then comma, then coordinating conjunction, the we always behave, right? So this is the compound sentence. On the next slide, we are moving on to the exercise. And exercise is about identifying the conjunctions in these compound sentences. So just stop the video for a second, for a while, and solve this exercise. Alright, hope you have done the exercise. Now moving on to the next topic. Compound complex sentences. We'll be coming after it. But before that, we are going to talk about complex sentence. So complex sentence has an independent clause joined by a dependent clause, which is also called subordinating clause and relative clause. So dependent clauses do not express a complete thought and can't stand alone as sentences. A dependent clause begins with a subordinating conjunction such as because, since, after, although, when, and etc. etc. Right? So this is a complete thought. So the combination of independent clause and dependent clause is called complex sentence. But before that, there has to be a subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun in between. Relative clauses begin with a relative pronoun such as who, which, that, whose, whom, etc. Follow these formats to punctuate when writing complex sentences. Dependent clause, then comma, then independent clause. So whenever you are formatting your sentence, the complex sentence this way, and you are putting dependent clause before the independent clause, so always keep in mind that punctuation, that this comma will precede independent clause. And whenever you are formatting it this way, independent clause and then dependent clause, so there will not be any comma after the dependent or before the dependent clause and after independent clause. The format has to be like this. You will simply be writing independent clause along with dependent clause, and the sentence would be seen as I'll go to the store since I have no milk. Okay, so it is all about formatting. So whenever dependent clause is coming in the beginning, it'll take comma after it, and then you will begin with independent clause, right? So the complex sentence, all in all, is a is a combination of independent and dependent clause, subordinating conjunction or relative pronoun connecting both of them. It has to be in between, right? So as you can see here in this example, I'll go to the store since. Now from here the dependent clause is starting, and dependent clause always starts with subordinating conjunctions, like it would start with because, since, after, although, when, you know these kind of until, right? So these kind of subordinating conjunctions would begin dependent clause, and that dependent clause will be coming along with independent clause to make it a complex sentence. Let's move on to some other examples. All right, the students are studying because they have a test tomorrow. As you can see, because they have a test tomorrow, yellow text reflect, right? This yellow text reflects the dependent clause. As you can see, the second example, after they finished studying, Jack and Maria went to the movies. So why there is a dependent clause without comma, and here we can see the comma in the second example as well as in the third example. What's the reason behind? The reason behind is that these both examples, these both sentences are starting with dependent clause. So whenever you are starting the sentence with the dependent clause, it would always take comma before independent clause. The remaining examples are as followed. The teacher returned the homework after she noticed the error. I know a guy who plays guitar in the rock band. Who? It says that this sentence, this whole uh, clause is a dependent clause, but it's a relative clause because it is starting with a relative pronoun, right? So synonyms are words that have similar meanings. So that is again relative pronoun. Alright, moving ahead, let's see, as you can see, all the yellow text, dependent clauses are in yellow text. Okay, so compound complex sentences. A compound complex sentence has two independent clauses and at least one or more dependent clauses, right? So let's begin with examples. After the two soccer players lost their game, they joined their own teammates for lunch and they went to the movies. As you can see, again, dependent clause starting up with the subordinating conjunction. After the two soccer players lost their game, then comma coming it, right? And it is taking up an a compound sentence, right? This is a compound sentence. They joined their other teammates for lunch, and this is the hint. Coordinating conjunction is coming in between both the independent clauses, right? They joined their other teammates for lunch. First independent clause, the second independent clauses, they went to the movies, right? And is joining both of them. So a compound complex sentence has two independent clause or one independent clause, right? Or sorry, one or two independent clause or one or more independent clauses and at least one or two dependent clauses, right? So here we go with the second note which we need to remember. As you can see, if we remove the dependent clause after the two soccer players lost their game, suppose if we remove this part from the sentence, so we are left with, we have a compound sentence. The dependent clause makes this sentence compound complex sentence. Without the dependent clause, this sentence is a compound sentence, right? Compound sentence is taking one dependent clause and that dependent clause coming along with the compound sentence, it makes compound complex sentence, right? So second example, the man believed in the system and he knew that justice would prevail. Now from here till here you can see it is a compound sentence. The man believed in the system, complete sentence, right? The man, subject, believed, verb, the remaining part, object, and coordinating conjunction joining both of them, comma, and he knew that justice would prevail. Again, the justice, subject and verb, this, okay, giving both the sides, both the clauses, both independent clauses, giving the complete thought. After the murderer was sent to jail, so after the murderer was sent to jail is the dependent clause. So the dependent clause itself possess no meaning, no complete thought, right? Always starting with the subordinating conjunction. But when it's coming after the independent clause, so it won't take any comma, any punctuation. But whenever it is coming in the beginning, so it would definitely take a comma after it, right? So we are moving on to the next one. So here is the exercise. Identify the dependent clause. Alright, here's the exercise. Just stop the video and answer all the questions. Alright, hope you're done with the exercise. So we are done with this video lesson. If you still have any questions, ask your teacher. Hope you have understood the sentence construction. So see you in the next video lesson. Till then, take care. Thank you.